Today, I and all of us are lucky enough to have joining us Mr. Jason Sheedy of Heebie Jeebies Pictures. Thank you, Jason, for making the appearance today.
Thank you. I mean, it's great to be together on camera. I would be remiss if we didn't automatically say that you and I have the pleasure of working on To Hell With You, a short film together.
I know, and we might even get into that a little bit because I'm very excited to get the chance to talk to you today. I've got some questions, some, in-depth questions about how things started, and we'll get into other things as well, just kind of like, off-the-cuff randomness. Just to start things off, you have built a pretty strong indie horror career. You've attended Savannah College Art and Design, if I'm correct.
Yep, Savannah College Art and Design, yep.
And got a bachelor's in fine arts. And I'm super jealous because whenever I went to college at Indiana State, I got a bachelor's in communications and a minor in radio, TV, film, and I just wasn't quite ready to just put all my chips in, and I'm so happy that you did because it seems like it's paid off. So before all of that, what kind of sparked your passion for filmmaking?
So I've always been interested since I was a kid. I've been making movies, horrible movies since I was a kid. Are they good now? No one knows. But yeah, I think it's one of those things I think I've always known I wanted to do. I think I've been, fortunate enough to grow up with that sort of notion of like, I've always kind of had that in mind. Like, okay, I know what I want to do with my life. It's just a matter of how do I sort of achieve that in a way that's, fulfilling and I can survive and all that stuff. So I would say that, I mean, the sort of the too long short or whatever version of it is that I remember watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was my first kind of moment. I was just on the floor, kind of, eating popcorn, watching this scene where these people's faces started melting off. And after that scene happened, I remember having this like sort of moment where I was like, I want to do this. Like, I think specifically at that time, I was really interested in the special effects side of it, but I just, there was something with the idea of telling these big stories that were, fantastical. And I definitely lean towards the supernatural. I mean, given like the horror background and things, I love telling stuff that's sort of detached from real life to some extent. But yeah, so that was the thing that kind of, I remember going to bed that night thinking like, this is what I want to do. I want to figure out how do I do that? How do I create that so people can watch my face melting scene on the TV?
Sure. Yeah, and I don't, and I think I remember how they did that scene. They used like a wax. I don't know if it was like candle wax, but they made, the skeleton layer and then like the meat layer and then the skin layer. And then they just, I don't know how, but they melted it and then sped up the footage, right?
Yeah, it's always been something I've wanted to try and find a reason to recreate in some movie. I don't think I have the talent for figuring it out.
It would have a pretty cool effect if you're able to pull it. Yeah. I know, right? I mean, gosh, the amount of time that it would take. And that's the other thing about, making movies back in the Steven Spielberg days. And it just even adds to, how tremendously talented his ability to put films together is. But and I've noticed that you do all of your special effects on your own films, or do you outsource that?
I do a lot of them, and that's largely just for resources and money and trying to like basically do as much as I can do. So I'm not asking too many friends to work for free. And don't get me wrong, some are very willing and far more talented than I am, and that's where like a lot of some of the films we have online. There's a film called Checkpoint where I had a bunch of buddies that I went to school with help me out. So they all took turns, animating and compositing. My buddy Ryan, who was my roommate in college, one of my best friends, he is an amazing visual effects artist and has done insane jobs for Marvel and effects and all these things. So I was very lucky that, he was working on my little movie. But yeah, so I definitely have leaned on some colleagues here and there for stuff that's, out of my wheelhouse. But in general, I will try to basically write and design shots around things I know I can do, so that if I can't, somebody's too busy or it's going to cost too much money, I sort of have to
right. You just kind of plan for it.
Yeah,
and that's and that's kind of where I should probably do better at. And in terms of the stuff that I make on the side, which is just for shits and giggle, really. But yeah, and I do recall that one that Brett is in that one. Is that right?
Brett is in a lot of them. I've killed.
He's
Brett.
He's in a lot. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Yeah, yeah, and he's a lot. Yeah, and I've actually got a question catered to your guys' partnership, if you will. Moving on to the next question. So you co-founded Heebie Jeebies Pictures, which I found out recently, with somebody named Joshua David Matthews. And then also, is it Kyle Steinecke?
I could have helped, but I wanted to hear what your take on it was. Steinecke, yeah, Kyle Steinecke.
To create memorable films. How did you guys like meet each other?
So we all met at school. Kyle and I had classes together. So the way that Kyle and I met was he was producing a project and he needed a bunch of us to go out and like get these location agreements and that. And I was one of the few, I think, that like had done it in the time he wanted or something. So he was just like, I like you. So that kind of that kind of became our initial, like, oh, okay, we enjoy working together. We're both on the same page. But then we just continued to work on short films throughout school and then out of school. When we did our first feature, and then it sort of was like this path of going to school and meeting people, and then everybody kind of branching out and trying some things, and then kind of converging together again. That's kind of where Heebie comes into play. I still work with a lot of the same people I do work with, or I had worked with at school in the years prior, or the years after rather. So it's nice that the team is more or less been the same. There's definitely been some we've had a different DP here and there, obviously using some different actors here and there, stuff like that. But we like our core group, and we definitely like to even if we're mixing and matching kind of thing. But it's always fun to kind of work with the same people that you've been working with for that long.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can only imagine that it makes the experience more fun when you can have a group of people that, like you said earlier, everyone's on the same page and similar goals, and you mesh well, and you can tell it comes across in all of your short films that I've seen. I mean, it is incredible to me that you're not already like a multi-millionaire, doing this. But you might actually be. I don't want to be insulting.
Spoiler alert.
Me either. But
same page. Yeah. See?
I'm a late bloomer, so I did insurance for 10 years, and then I was like, nope, and then we changed paths. So, but yeah, no, that's great. So you guys, for the most part, you've developed these relationships for quite a while. And speaking of, the horror films and everything, so what would you say is a classic horror film that has influenced you? I guess we know that with Raiders of the Lost Ark, but like horror-wise, is there anything that stands out?
Oh yeah, I have. I mean, it's funny because I feel like there's always that, are you prepared to answer? Like, what are your top 5? What are your top 10? This and that. My all-time favorite horror movie is John Carpenter's The Thing. That was the film I think that really stuck with me. If I had to give you a top 3, it would be The Thing, Poltergeist, and Dawn of the Dead. George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Those were the films that I think shaped me. And then Evil Dead is definitely in there too. That's probably might replace Poltergeist.
I love Evil Dead. I love Evil Dead, Army of Darkness.
Yeah, all those films. Evil Dead I thought was
the Sam Raimi.
Yeah, and it's just the idea of these guys essentially like going out in the woods and filming this thing together and doing it in a very rough and tumble way. Just really, especially at the time of making movies and watching that film, figuring out what I was trying to do. It just really I guess appealed to that sensibility where I'm like, oh, these guys went out and did this thing. Like nothing I'm making is anywhere even remotely close to the quality, but just the idea that it wasn't like a big studio doing it. It was these people that just wanted to make a movie, and they made their short first to raise some funds, and then just went out and did it in some pretty grueling conditions, with makeup and obviously having to shoot months later, using a separate basement and all these things and stitching together. Just it taught me, if anything, that because in my head I think I was imagining filmmaking as this very streamlined process before I knew too much about it, where it's like, oh, this scene was shot first, in the order of the film, and they knocked it all out in a month or whatever it was, and it was very planned and processed and boom boom boom, and it's can be that way, but generally speaking it's not.
Yeah, they definitely struck gold in a way. And the innovative shot that they have with that the camera where it's the POV of the monster or the beast or the demon or whatever it is, and it's good that they even don't reveal that to you. It's like, well, why even reveal that? We don't have the resources.
I've recreated that shot in more than one film, shamelessly. There's
sure.
not even trying to.
It's
hide
amazing.
It. Let's do the Evil Dead shot.
What is the scariest or most unexpected moment you've had happen while shooting?
Scariest? Thankfully, I haven't had any truly scary moments. We definitely take safety very seriously. I mean, we're working with crews of 6 to 10 people most of the time, so we're all close enough that I don't want anyone to get hurt for any reason. So thankfully nothing scary has happened in that sense. It's always funny though too, because like a lot of times I feel like when you're making a horror film, especially when you're doing it with your friends and you're in sort of this relaxed, comfortable environment that's more about, I guess, creativity, as opposed to like it's not as like scary, and sometimes that's nerve-wracking because you're like, is this scary? Like, is this actually going to work the way I want it to? I do think, like, yeah, if there's a few of us in a dark hallway and there's fog rolling in, like that can get thematically like, oh, I think this will work. But I think so maybe the fun play on that is the scariest thing is wondering if things will actually be scary. Because I mean,
that makes complete sense. The scariest thing is thinking
Nailed
that.
it.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Unexpected though, I would say. I mean, there's always like unexpected things that happen, and I think
sure.
in a good way a lot of times. Like it's just like as a director, I think I used to be a little bit more narrow-minded, where I had a vision, and I was trying to sort of lock everything into that. And I think as I've grown as a filmmaker, one of the most important things to me is to be open. Still obviously be in charge of that vision and make sure you're staying on that track that's going to keep the film, a film and tell the story in the right way, but also like
right.
When an actor comes and brings I mean, with The Hell With You, like how I first reached out to you, like you knew what you were doing. Like you are going to do this far better than I can. And you clearly have shown that you can do it with your different reels and things. Like, hey, this is what I need. Have fun with it. And let's see what happens. And I mean, you did one take, and that was the take that's in the film.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah. And I knew the vibe immediately. And for anybody that doesn't know, one of the things that I do is it's like an old timey style, transatlantic style, almost old 1950s infomercial reel. Or I mean, yeah. When you had reached out and you had shown me the clip that you wanted me to do it on, I thought, because I hadn't met you yet and really knew what you were working on, and I thought the clip that you had sent me was from a different movie. I had no idea that it was actually your project. So once you sent the final over for me to check out, I mean, I was completely just in awe. It's funny, it's creepy, it's got the fans that love a little gore here and there, get what they want as well. Yeah, To Hell With You was awesome. Thanks for thanks for mentioning that, because I haven't seen it in a while. I want to see it again.
I need to see about getting some fests over, but it's always tricky too, because like we'll do the fest and we'll try to target as many as we can within a reasonable financial amount. But obviously you don't get into everything, so it's like it's always trying to find where we can get the most reach, like both state in the States here and then obviously internationally. But no, I'm trying to remember the exact, because I remember needing that voice, and I think I found you. Was it on Fiverr?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's so funny because I feel like, I mean, it's such a great outlet. I mean, just the idea that people are doing these creative things, and I think there's that myth too, where like everything, has to be Five, or there's like a quality thing. It's like, no. It's just a platform for people to, go on and say what you can do. It's similar to any other social media thing, but just in a more like business, oriented way. So this is apparently
for sure.
sponsored by Fiverr now. You're welcome.
Get that
Taco Bell sponsorship. That's what I need.
I know we need the Taco Bell sponsorship and Fiverr sponsorship. Maybe we'll throw we'll tag them and we'll see what happens.
We'll see if they get it. But that's what I think is so cool about, I mean, the filmmaking, because filmmaking is such a team. Like even though I'm trying to take on as much as I can individually, because of resources and money and things like that, like there's still an insane amount of opportunity, to work with people. And to me, that's the most enjoyable thing, because I mean, we're talking because I, Google search to Whim, and like now we have this rapport, and we have this like history together that we keep building. Like the composers that have scored To Hell With You in the last few films I've done, she reached out to me after seeing Checkpoint on YouTube and was just like, hey, this was fun. Like if you ever need music. And sure enough, one day I was like, hey, you guys have a cool style. Like, let's try something. And they scored my next movie, and now we work on everything together. And I don't know, I think that's a really cool, and it goes back to that like idea of being in school. It's like once you sort of find those people you gel with, again, like with
you want to hang on to them.
Yeah,
you want to hang on to the good ones.
Like,
yeah,
I want to make a movie now where you just use that voice the entire time.
Oh, sure.
I love like the retro, obviously like retro film or whatever you want to call it, like film and like the 50s and the transatlantic voice and everything. It's just, it appeals to me. I love doo-wop. I love that whole, there's something about that aesthetic that I just feels like something I enjoy personally, but I also just think it's interesting to like try to recreate on screen. So
Yeah, it's such a, it's like the early-ish stages of film, and so it's, nowadays that's like looking back at the Renaissance. If you look at the way film has started to shift, it's definitely changing. And that actually leads me to one of my questions, which I'll just jump a few of them. Since you've started making films, what has changed?
I say what has changed. Hopefully they've gotten better, but I feel like that's not for me
Oh,
to
sure.
decide.
Yeah. They're all great in my eyes.
Perfect. Mission accomplished. It's interesting because obviously, I mean, the easy answers are, technology and like, yeah, the audience. And, you talk about theatrical and streaming and all this and that. There people digest, film and television and storytelling, in different ways now. And I definitely obviously need to and want to embrace some of that. But I do, going off of what you said earlier, I do have an affinity for sort of this older style of filmmaking. I think because I grew up on those films, like those are the films that inspire me to get into filmmaking. So naturally I would want to, pay my respects to them and be inspired by them and showcase that influence in my own work. And I think and that's part of the reason I think I tend to, if I can do it, I will always make a period film, because I think that the idea of even in like an indie space having to sort of recreate everything, like, and don't get me wrong, like it's in under certain, and we've done it plenty of times, like it's, you go to a location, you shoot on location, you bring in some equipment and you maybe, manipulate some things, but it keeps it a little bit more practical from an indie standpoint to accomplish, a scene or a film. But there is something very satisfying to me about, like, with To Hell With You, like it's only one room. I can't remember these budgets are not high, so it's not like we're spending, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on these things. But just getting, like, we got like wall slats from Home Depot that, most of which we returned, is the ones that didn't get fake blood all over them.
Sir, why is there blood all over these?
I thought about trying to return one just to see if I could get a smile out of somebody about like, this might be inappropriate. But no,
it just didn't work out.
No, yeah, that one went in the trash. And it's funny too, because even it's with horror, I'm getting a little bit off topic, because all these things you don't think about, like I'm blooding up like a blanket in these clothes in my backyard and like letting them air dry, and I'm just like, this probably looks very questionable from the neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
So we try to keep them informed now, like, hey, we're shooting a horror movie. If you hear screams, whatever. But
sure. Yeah.
Anyway, going back on that, I think what's changed for me is I definitely am more open. I think I respect the process enough to try and be as over prepared as I can, and I think I'm always trying to find more and more ways to prepare myself.
Right.
I think filmmaking is interesting because I feel like you can over prepare and still not be prepared enough, but that's just the nature of, a bunch of different people getting together. There's, on set, there's going to be things you can't control. If you're outside, sometimes it's the weather. Sometimes if you're working with practical effects, it might be like how this blood sprays out. It might not, do exactly what you want it to do. We shot a movie with my dog. Like, I don't know how she's going to act, I don't know how she's gonna she did great, by the way. She's a wonderful
Which one is your dog in?
It's a one called The Reclaimers.
The Reclaimers. Okay.
To you, but yeah, that's
I think you did that one like maybe right before you had introduced yourself to me, but I have seen, is that one on your YouTube?
The trailer is
page?
But not the full film. That's
the trailer. Okay,
yeah,
that's what I thought. It's like a post-apocalyptic.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'll shoot you a link. But yeah, just so I think just the idea of me being open to these things that I can't control, but then obviously like trying to have that open-mindedness go through, like as a director. I think that's the thing I've learned the most, is trying to do as much homework as possible before the shoot. I think a lot of times, especially in my younger days, I would sort of have ideas, but I would sort of want to explore those, and that was possible when I was in 8th grade and my buddies and I were running around with my mom's Hi8 camera,
just having fun.
And we're just having fun. Like, but when you have people showing up and there's more preciousness to the time and the money that you're spending.
Oh, sure.
Obviously you want to be as prepared as you can be, so you're not wasting people's time, but also so you get what you want and you get what you need to tell the story. And I think for indie stuff, that's always the tricky thing, is making your day and making sure that if you've got 30-40 shots for the day, like if you miss out on 5 of those shots, like, are you going to be okay? Like, are you still going to have a film? Are people going to be able to come on a different day? It's like, that mode of thinking. Anyway, all that leads to the thing that I think has changed the most for me is I feel like 90% of my directing happens now before we even get on set. Like it's meeting with the actors, it's, doing breakdowns, script analysis, like trying to come up with every possible answer to every possible question that might happen. And then kind of like letting go of that a little bit when I get to set. Like we're still obviously, sticking to a schedule. I've got shots I want to get. I've got performances I want to get. But going into it, the idea of like we have all done the homework. We are all on the same page. We are going to go into this, and we have everything we need to make this happen. And now it's just about like getting into that creative mindset. Let's explore a little bit. Let's try something out. And we got to do that a lot on To Hell With You. The way we were pretty tightly scheduled, but the actors and the Aaron Ombie, Brett Brooks, Andrew Bourne, Matt Noonan, who also DP'd the film, and Claire Christie, like they're all so good, and they all were like really good at improv as well. So it's like we do a take for me kind of thing, and it's like let's try something else. What do you guys want to do? And there's quite a bit of improv that made it in that film because of those guys, and because we over prepared and did our homework, and then we had the time. At the end of the day, like if something works, it works. Like a good idea is a good idea. Like it changes too. Like what made you laugh on set maybe isn't as funny, but that's anything. You go to
sure, sure, oh yeah. If my some of my video views can attest to what is funny in my head isn't necessarily funny for everybody. Like
to your point earlier, you were saying like sometimes it's stuff that you don't necessarily put as much thought into. You just sort of do it for fun. You put it out there and you see what happens. Like, and then one day you wake up and you've got 2 million views on that video and stuff. Like
I know, yeah. There's one video that's from the winter in January of this year of it's snowing and it's like 28 degrees, but it was just like -20 or something. And I just, I pull up the camera. I didn't even think about it for a second. I didn't even know if I was going to post it or not. I was like, I don't know, that's kind of funny. So I put it up, I was like, finally, it's not cold anymore, and yeah. And I think now it's at like, well, I know what it's at. It's at 4.7 million views
to the view. That's insane. Yeah. And it's just like, it's so interesting to me because like, you just never know. There's something, it's just wild because it's just very much like, I mean, I've always equated, my buddy Colin and I have always equated, filmmaking to playing the lottery, and it's like with every movie and, content piece you put out, you're just buying more tickets. Like, I think obviously there's like, there's talent, there's skill involved. And I think, the greater chances of winning, they increase, hopefully. But there is still a luck component, like, and it's and sometimes that's hard to hear, but it is like there's just so much stuff being made now. There's so many outlets for it. There's so many people. So it's it's kind of a miracle. I always think it's a miracle, even just with the big Hollywood stuff, that things get made, especially when you break down like all the things it takes to get that one shot, where this guy breaks through a wall and gets in a car and drives off, and it's just like, yeah, that took $20,000 and 50 people and another 100 people over here doing this. And
yeah. And if you have to redo a shot, could cost you $50,000,
Yeah.
If you're like a big studio, and it's, yeah, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of pressure and you're dealing with a lot of talent and you're dealing with a lot of people. You're right. It's so many pieces, and it's incredible that people can do that. But what you have to your benefit outside of that is you have your core group of people that can get together and make some awesome films. For any aspiring filmmakers out there, what would be, kind of a cliche question, but, what would you tell them? Maybe let's say a kid in middle school, getting into film like when you were a kid. What would you want to be told if you were a kid, from what you've learned? Like just maybe like, you could just say like one thing, I know that you could probably go forever with that question.
Yeah. Well, the advice I would give to somebody that's like trying to get into it is just to get into it. Like as simple as that sounds, like some of the best advice I've ever gotten. And I know I've said this, in different podcasts and things too, but it's just like, if you want to make movies, go make movies. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the best things ever. Like I've certainly made my fair share of not great movies. I mean, everything I've made up until now. No, no, I feel like the advice that I get even to this day, when people at least have seen some of the stuff we've been making, the advice I get to this day is keep doing what you're doing. And it's funny because that advice never changes. And I get why it doesn't. It's because like it's like anything else. It's like if you enjoy doing it, especially like, first and foremost, I really enjoy doing it. Like I there's other ways to spend time that don't involve, spending money and trying to figure out schedules but I love doing it. So like, I'm going to go out of my way to find, time for this. But to me, it's literally just like we shot, and this isn't a brag so much as it's just an explanation of what I'm talking about. Like we shot 3 short films about I guess like a month ago or something. We were sort of testing ourselves. We were trying to give ourselves like a little bit of like a, let's get some films made so that we can kind of be working on them throughout the year. But again, it just came down to like, well, if we're going to do this again, like adjusting our goal to like our resources, like we'll write 3 micro shorts, knowing that like we know we can succeed, but there's still just enough of a challenge to like learn and grow. Because I never want to do something that's like, and I've talked with Brett about this a lot, especially with like acting and stuff. Like we always try to, the last thing he did for me was a bit more of a challenge in a different way than some other things have been. So it's like, it's always trying to like, make stuff I know we can knock out of the park, but at the same time, give ourselves a little bit more of a challenge each time. Sort of bigger and better. It's not always bigger. It's not always better. I don't know.
Right. Sure. Being
so
you're talking, yeah.
But,
so you're saying basically, taking like what used to be considered a short, which would be like 20 minutes, 15 years ago, 20-minute was a short, to something a little bit more consumable in this day and age. Right.
Oh, I mean, that's a big point too. Yeah. I think it's so funny because, and I do think you have to be, a parent of that. I think at the end of the day, like if you want to make a film, depending on what you want, if you do want to like make a living out of it, then obviously it's not that there's rules to abide by per se. I don't feel like that. I think it's more just about like knowing, educating yourself about like the business aspects of it, like what would potentially be is going to be like commercially viable or commercially, could be something that people latch on to. But at the same time, I think there's also just a benefit. Like to me, the day it stops being fun is the day I don't want to do it anymore. Cause then it's like, what's the point? For me, it's like, and Josh, Kyle, and I all have this, and my buddy Matt, who shot a lot of our stuff, we've talked about this in detail. Like I want to create that feeling on set where it's like, this takes me back to what I was talking about with being a kid, with my parents, the family video camera and just running around and having a good time. Like, obviously we want to make films that were hopefully better than that quality, but still like the thing I don't ever want to change is that sense that I had, or that spirit I had when we were doing that, which was just this like, there's this adventure of like creativity and like exploring like storytelling and things that just have always been fun and continue to be more fun. So I think that's my main, I guess, goal with all this, is to try and keep holding on to that. And I think that plays into, what I was mentioning a bit earlier too, about, staying open to things, like letting, like still putting in like the work and the effort into to make something great, but like allowing yourself to have fun, allowing yourself to like let go of some of like the inherent stress that does come with making a film. Like it's not easy.
No, not at all.
So I don't know if I answered.
Which is why I don't do it at that level. So, but yeah, no, that's a good answer. Just get into it. And that's probably the majority of the people that would ask that question. They would say, Jason, I want to get into that. What do I do? And I get the same question for people with voiceover. It's like, bro, what do I do to get into voiceover? And yeah,
I hope that's 90% of the inquiries sound exactly like that.
Well, it's either that or do a voice for me.
Like the skateboarder version of do a kickflip, do a voice, do your accents.
Yeah, do your accents. But when I was in high school, that's what I was kind of known for, was being the guy to be like, hey, do Arnold Schwarzenegger, or, whatever it was, whatever impression I was doing, and that's what got me into it. And I also loved doing filmmaking too. When I was a kid, I'm 39 years old, and my brother's 4 years older than me. And, we got like one of the very first ever consumer market video cameras. And that thing was a clunker. That thing was like 25 pounds, VHS, maybe, I think it was yeah, it was definitely VHS. But I mean, this thing was like, you would, if you were to see it today, it looked like a rocket launcher. Back to the questions. I actually am really excited about this one because I am into like the paranormal stuff, and which is why I like horror and things like that. And I've had my own experiences, which I could talk about if we have time. But I wanted to ask you, have you ever had anything paranormal happen or experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about yours, because I'm always interested to hear, like, I mean, some of my favorite things to do is just like, I mean, I love like creepypastas and things with just like, scary stories and like. But one of my favorite things before, like, I mean, way back in I'm 39 too, so creepypastas weren't really a thing when I was a kid.
No,
So
no, no.
you would find like we'd be on vacation, you'd find like the book in like the gift shop of wherever we were at, and it's like local
Ghost
ghost
stories.
stories, yeah, and that was
Yeah.
like the thing. But yeah, so there's definitely, I mean, there's been a random stuff that's happened that is definitely varying. The most recent thing that comes to mind is sort of tied into why I made the movie The Reclaimers with my dog Boone, because Booney sees some things.
Is that who's behind you?
Yeah, Boone is behind me. I don't know. Yeah, she's on the couch. I don't know if you can
I
see. I can't see her from this angle, but
I can see just the top. I can just see the top. Her?
Yeah.
I can only see like the top of her head, and I didn't know that she was over there. And then earlier when you were like answering a question, and like I saw the head move, and it like kind of freaked me out because I wasn't ready for it. I was like, oh, it's just his dog.
She looks like she's passed out right now. But so part of the reason I even made that movie, which is probably one of my more recent paranormal experiences. Well, my wife had one too, but is we were on like a walk, and it was like after a storm, and we like came around this corner, and we were living in this like little small community thing, and it was like in the middle of the day, like most of the people, I was working from home, most of the people had jobs, I was sort of there basically alone. It was sort of like a ghost town,
Yeah,
maybe literally. But we come around the corner, and I, it's one of those things where like, of course she could have seen, a leaf, or just like, who knows,
sure.
but like, it was a chilling moment because she reacted in a way where as if there was like a threat. So we come around the corner, and she's just, I could see like the hair start to raise on her back, which I don't see her do very often. Like not even when she's upset, or the mailman's outside, whatever. Like it was that's what made it so chilling. Was I'm like, oh, I don't think I've seen your hair raise up on your back like that. And then she starts growling, and it's like a real guttural like. And she's got like this. Got this attack stance, and we're at like a dead end street, just looking at another like dead end part of the street. So there's no cars, there's no people, there's no trees, there's nothing, and she is just like locked onto something, and is not happy about it. And she wouldn't let me, like, I was trying to move her, and she was just like, I mean, she's pretty muscular, so she just was like locked in.
Wow.
And then it was like nothing happened, and then at one point she just sort of like all of a sudden she eased up, kind of looked up at me, starts wagging her tail. I'm like, I don't know what you just saw.
Whatever that was, it's open. Wow.
But my wife has had a similar experience with, and even that we moved, we're in a new house in a new neighborhood now, and I've had it happen once or twice now, in sort of lesser degrees, but where she'll just pause at certain spots, and she'll just lock onto just like, an empty lot or something, and just be staring as if she's meeting the eyes of someone or something. But my wife, Megan, I was out of town, actually. I think I was at a film festival, and Booney woke her up right around like the 3 a.m., like the witching hour and things.
Oh, really? Wow.
Woke her up, and basically like, gave her a little paw, and then left the room. And Megan was like, oh, maybe she's got to use the restroom. So she goes to walk to her back door where, Booney would be waiting. Booney's not there. She's like, what? So she goes around the other side of the house, and then she sees Booney. She sees her tail kind of sticking out of this doorway. She kind of creeps in, and we have this like media room where our TV and our couch is, just our little like nest area. And Booney is positioned at one corner of this, looking up at a corner of the room, empty corner of the room, and just looking straight up and just wagging her tail.
What?
And then
so it was a different energy.
Yeah. So like, and what's interesting about that is the house we are in, we learned after we bought it that there was a fire that somebody actually unfortunately died in. So,
what?
Yeah.
In the house that you're in right now.
The house I'm in right now. So
right above you.
We like to think that maybe that was the previous owner, just in Booney was just like, hey. But
maybe they like dogs.
Maybe they like dogs. Yeah. So that was the most recent thing that's happened with her. That was sort of hard to explain. And then Megan was like, "Get home now."
Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah. I mean, dogs, and one of the experiences I can go ahead and let you know about what.
Yeah. I'd love to hear yours.
Sure. So I've got many, but a couple of them have to do with a similar situation with our dog. Her name was Diamond. She was like a half beagle, half basset hound mix. And, she was not a barker though. She would not just like bark at anything like my current two dogs do. But she one day we were in, it was a house that we had moved in. I think we had lived there for about a year at this point. Loved this house, but it was in Newburgh, Indiana. It was a 3-story home. But in any case, she started barking at the wall out of nowhere for no reason at all. She's just barking, and she's like right up against the wall. And she's just like barking at the wall. And on the other side of the wall is the kitchen. And my mom is mopping, and she stacks the chairs on top of the table when she mops. Well, while our dog Diamond is barking, not like hair standing up like a threat is going on, but like, hey, you shouldn't be here kind of a bark. She's doing this, and I'm yelling at her to stop. And while I'm yelling at her to stop, my mom screams, and I will go into the kitchen, and one of the chairs, she said, I didn't see it because I was dealing with the dog, but she said that one of the chairs flew off of the table as she was mopping and while our dog was barking. I think that was probably the most scary one, I think.
That takes me back to that scene in Poltergeist where she like exits the room and then comes back in and all the chairs are suddenly
oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Like really
yeah,
quiet. For sure.
It's just like spooky. That's chilling. Poltergeist, I mean, the idea of like poltergeist in general I find fascinating. Just the idea of these,
something can physically manifest.
Yeah,
something
like
can physically move something.
Yes. So that's spooky though.
Yeah. And then another one that I'll share is same house. And I'm having just like a sleepover. I'm probably like 9 or 10 years old, and I just have like a neighborhood buddy of mine staying the night. We got our sleeping bags. We were gonna sleep in the living room with a big screen, and just like watch a movie, put on a movie or whatever. We get into the room. It's dark. It's the living room. There's nothing on at all. It's completely dark. The lights are off. We just walk in there. As soon as we walk in there, the CD player system, entertainment system, kicks on by itself and is playing Boyz II Men Silent Night, which is the Christmas album. So it must have been around Christmas because I do remember listening to that CD, but it was off. And not only was it off, when it kicked back on, it went to that song Silent Night before we were going to go lay down to go to sleep. And that track is not the first track. And if anybody knows how CDs work, you put a CD and you turn the system on, it's going to play the first song on the CD. This was like track 11. And
that adds, that adds a spooky layer to that story. The idea that goes into some smooth jams though.
I mean, it's a good song. It's a good Christmas album for anybody that needs to, you don't hear enough of Boyz II Men's Christmas album. But yeah, no. And there's other things that have happened too. I've even seen a shadow figure, same house. I stopped experiencing all the stuff once we left that house.
Okay.
Not a single thing since then.
Did you move out of said house because of said shadow figure?
No, we moved out of said house because my dad he got let go, which was a whole thing, but we had to move, and then we moved to central Indiana, which is where I'm at now. No, we moved because my dad, that would have been I should just tell people that we moved because of that, though. That's way more entertaining than my dad got a different job. I mean, like, for example, the one that, even before, the very first one that I ever had was with my brother, and it was like but my brother used to mess with me, though. So he would be the typical older brother that would hide in the dark corner of a room, wait for you to get close, and then jump out at you and scare the crap out of you. Or like, if I'm just like goofing around, like throwing like a bouncy ball around or something, I'll throw it like out. Like I remember this specifically, I threw like a bouncy ball like out of my room door, whatever. I was just like goofing off. And then like, I'm just sitting there, like probably reading like zoo books or something. And then
you took me back to a whole world with the zoo books there.
Oh, with the zoo books. Oh yeah. I mean, that's how we learned about animals. But, just silently rolled the ball back in. Like he would, but I got him though. I got him back. My parents have this old doll, which is like, I actually have it now in my attic.
Is this the same doll in the short film you made?
Different one.
Okay.
I've got 3 dolls.
Okay.
and they're all creepy, and I'm pretty sure there's something going on, but I try not to speak about it because if anybody knows about that world, you don't talk about it. So, but in any case, I put this particular doll, which is pretty freaky. You know, it's like, I'd say it's like a mix between what the actual Annabelle doll looks like in real life, the Raggedy Ann doll, versus like what the movies look like. It's like a blend of the two.
Okay.
But blonde. And I put it in his bedroom, and I taped a knife to its hand and stood it on stood it on the bed. So when he opened the door, it was just there. Like, I got a picture of it somewhere. If I ever find it, I'll
cut to it.
I'll message
moment.
you.
Yeah.
You've collaborated with a lot of the same talent, like we talked about with Aaron. Now, is it Ownbay? Aaron Ownbay? Is that how you pronounce her? Ownbay. Okay.
But Ownbay
Aaron Ownbay
has some pizzazz to it. I'll let her know about
it. Doesn't it? Aaron Ownbay. And Brett Brooks, who I am familiar with on To Hell With You, but with these same group of people, you may have answered this question earlier, but you know, what makes these ongoing partnerships so effective for your storytelling?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, they're very talented. Like, they're both like, they're great friends. And I treasure that most of all, like, you know, the idea of their friendship more than, you know, using them for films and things, but they're also great actors. And Aaron's somebody I met, Brett I met at school. So we've been working together since school, and Aaron's somebody I met, years later when, my wife and I moved to Atlanta, which is where we're at now. But yeah, it was just that like meeting of the minds where you meet somebody that you gel with in one way or another. And there's that connection where you go, I could collaborate with this person this way. And I think it would be really satisfying, you know, for all parties involved, kind of thing. Like we're each getting to lend some talent, but then there's also like almost like an immediate trust there where you're just like, oh, I can tell that these guys know what they're doing, and they're going to give it their all. And I'm going to be happy with no matter what I get. You know, kind of thing. Like, and that's kind of the joke now, is like, you know, what I was saying before, like a lot of the directing, I feel like it's so much of just having conversations with them, knowing that they're already going to bring something great to the table. And they also understand, like, you know, we're not always, you know, given the opportunity to make, you know, films that have a lot of meat on them. You know, it might mean that it's just like a little bit more of like a bit part, or, you know, like a smaller role, but like they'll treat it, you know, like they're doing something for, you know, a high dollar feature the same way. And I respect the hell out of them for that. Cause I know it, but we have the same thing as a filmmaker. You know, we don't always have the opportunity to make huge budget or minimal budget, you know, features for that.
Sure.
So sometimes, but I do think it's just finding, you know, even if it's a 2-minute micro short, like finding a reason to care about it. And then just, you know, giving it your all and having a good time with it. So, and they've done that every time. So that's why
I can tell.
Yeah, that's why I continue to work with them, is they've been insanely reliable, and they're just so good at what they do. And they're very natural. I think they come across on camera very natural, and they can play everything. Like I've seen them do, and that's kind of been the goal too, and something I've been trying to keep for them as well, as, you know, with every film we do, like trying to, I mean, as a filmmaker, trying to do different forms of storytelling and different genres within horror, you know, that's why I love horror though, is there's like, you know, 100 different genres within horror, subgenres, but
for sure.
Trying to find ways to give them like, hey, you've not like, this one we did, last one I shot with Aaron, I was like, yeah, I don't think you've ever really played a villain, you know, in a movie I've made. Let's have you be the villain this time. And stuff like that, you know, just finding little things to.
Is that maybe in Tapestry you're talking about?
So no, this is actually one called Madam. Tapestry.
Okay, yes.
But Tapestry was another one where, I mean, what was interesting about Tapestry is we also had a 2-year-old, some good friends of ours that were kind enough to lend us their child for this horror short.
Lend me your child for this horror film.
But yeah, it's always funny because my producer Kyle is, you know, let's try not to do any period films with, you know, pets or kids. And like one of the first projects we worked on together was like a period movie with animals and kids. Yay.
Get it out of the system.
Sorry, Kyle. You know, it's the same thing I was taught. You got to give them a little challenge, you know, just step it up. It's also just fun to have this sort of team, you know, this band that we've created. Especially when it does come time to do festivals and things. It's like you're essentially kind of going on this tour together, you know, with other filmmakers you've met throughout the years, and it's just kind of fun to have those familiar faces. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of, and you just teased it. I saw something very recently. It was a teaser, which I may try to show for the viewers is called Madam. And so tell me about Madam. What's going on with Madam?
So Madam is the latest in a trilogy of micro shorts that we did with Heebie Jeebies. So the before this, it was Tapestry. So Tapestry was something we shot last year that's making its way on the festival circuit right now. We played Fright Fest. We're about to play Sitges, which is really cool. Scream Fest, Film Quest. We've got a lot of festivals lined up for that are going to be really fun. Madam is part of one of three shorts, and so in my mind, I'm calling it the Terrible Fate trilogy, even though I don't think I've run that past Josh or Kyle.
Yeah.
It just has it rolls off the tongue. No, but it's
Yeah.
just like because I think they all three have this similar sort of theme that I guess plays off that. But anyway, so we did these three shorts. Josh directed one, I directed one, and then Josh and I directed one together.
Oh, cool.
So they're all very different from one another. Brett and Aaron were involved in two out of the three, and then we had another actor friend of ours, a guy named Kyle Gazik, was in the other one. So, and he's somebody I've worked with in the past as well. But yeah,
Nice.
so it's something that'll probably come out maybe next year. We're kind of aiming for some festivals, but also just again like kind of trying to put together some short films that we can sort of have to release, as we go throughout the year.
Give people a quick like synopsis. Like if you were to pull up Madam as a book, even as a trilogy, and I were to look at the back side of it, what would it say?
Um, so essentially, the setup for it is a man enters a mischievous ghoul's game, and I think that's kind of the. I'm trying to walk the line of like, especially for micro short. It's always funny too, like when like a lot of times for festivals you have to put together a trailer, and it's like, how do I put together a trailer for this like
Trailer for something, yeah.
2 or 3 minute movie? It's like, well, there you it's
Yeah.
like the first shot and then like title card.
Right.
But yeah, so I think it's sort of a ghostly figure that has this special ability to sort of entrap people in a game that she's playing with them. And again, Brett got to it was definitely something that I think that he had to he had to pull from some deeper emotional stuff for that for some of the scenes. And
Oh, really?
yeah, it's just it's one of those shorts that I think we both were like, oh yeah, we this is a situation where you got to go a little harder than we both were thinking.
Oh,
But he
sure.
knocked it out of the
Yeah.
park. I mean, like he always does. Like I never have a doubt. So, but yeah, I think it's fun. We're working at editing all those now. Amidst
Okay.
just developing some other ideas, trying to get another feature off the ground, kind of like that.
Okay. Last thing. What would would you say is the what's your like very next thing? What's your next festival? Where are you going?
Next festival that I'm going to would be it will be Sitges in October for Tapestry.
Okay, cool.
So we're gonna go there, and then my wife and I we were fortunate enough to also go to Fright Fest in London earlier. And,
Oh,
so
wow.
we're definitely getting those international trips, that we've been wanting to do for a few years now. So uh,
Tax write off.
exactly, yeah, and then we'll probably lay low for a little bit and save some money. But no,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
great.
for
Yeah,
sure.
so it's an opportunity to obviously go to these really awesome festivals, but then like spend some time together and go over to Italy or whatever we may end up doing. But yeah, so I'm excited
That's
about that.
awesome. So where's Stitch is that? Is that the one? Is
So
that
that is
in?
it's in Spain. Yeah, so it's like a
Oh, cool.
coastal town in Spain. But it looks awesome. I mean, I feel like it's very humbling as a filmmaker because these are festivals that I've known about for years and years that I never
Hmm.
thought I'd get into with anything. And I think it's a testament also to like the team. Like Tom Festo is the guy that shot this one. It looks great. We had some help from our buddies Luke McMahon and Jen Bird, who shot the a couple of films in the trilogy. So again, we're just sort of like different people are helping out in different ways, and I mean, uh, to my benefit, lending their strength
Yeah.
to this, whatever story I've got going on, and I'm grateful that we're getting that kind of recognition with these festivals, to where it's like, okay, cool, like that thing that did that you put your time and talent into is being recognized. And I think that's the coolest thing as a filmmaker, to be able to like show people like, hey, the thing that you maybe because I mean, especially now, I know I struggle sometimes with the confidence, like, is this good? Is it not good? Like, I certainly have like the knowledge to look at something objectively, and answer that question. But there's still always that little voice in the back of your head where like, is it?
Oh, sure.
But
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's always
Oh, yeah.
so with festivals and things, it's always like a nice sort of quickly gratifying way as you're moving through the year to like, oh, it got into this. That's great. I didn't think we'd ever get into that. So that's really humbling and really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's got to be very rewarding to be able to send something in that you've worked hard on and that it gets, the recognition that I think all of your films deserve. Regardless of your self-deprecating humor,
Just a little.
you are
just a little.
Yeah, just a little bit. No, but you were an incredibly talented director, and special effects person. Multi. I mean, that's the way things have to be, multifaceted. Yeah, I'm excited to see, the future on what you bring. I'm excited to see Madam, whenever that may be, next year possibly. But yeah, it's been terrific meeting with you, and I do actually want to do it again at some point after a little bit, and we can start talking about other projects going on.
Yeah, for sure. This was great, and thank you again for all. I mean, again, I think it's just so cool that we met on this whim thing because it
Right.
came from this idea of like, with To Hell With You. I recorded like the temp voiceover. And it was okay, but it's like, man, somebody else is going to knock this out of the park. And I feel like if I just go on the internet and just spend 5 minutes, and I think that's all it took. And I'm like, this guy will do this in his sleep. And he did. And it was awesome. And I'm grateful for you for lending your talent to that and stuff. So I think it's just, again, what I think is so neat is just, different people having these different talents that end up, and then for To Hell With You, I mean, just to brag on that a bit, it's, I think it's won like 3 Best Short awards. And like, that's something that we can all share. And, like, hey,
that's
like,
huge. I know. I'm trying to figure out a way that I could leverage that within Fiverr and all the other,
exploit
all the other
it
platforms.
however you feel like you can, man.
This is the story of a young man named Brennan, top of his class, and just last year he took the baseball team to the playoffs. Yes, he's got a bright future ahead of him. Oh, fuck this, bye!
Esme?
Doyle.
What's it been, centuries?
Not long enough. Brennan's a good kid. He's coming with me.
Just let me have this. I need to win.
If you win, he loses.
Don't I get a say in this?
Welcome to limbo, bitch.
Yeah, I definitely want to go with her.
Come on. Hop one into the jar. My favorite jar.